We're back. We didn't quit the podcast.
No.
We're still here talking about these Georgia Bulldogs. Real tight, real touch and go there for a minute. It's not like this is the only time we've seen something like this.
No.
Let's talk about some times in recent history when Georgia has played eerily similar type games. And let's talk about what that might mean for this Georgia team moving forward next on the Locked On Bulldogs podcast.
You are Locked On Bulldogs, your daily podcast on the Georgia Bulldogs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back, everybody. This is Locked On Bulldogs, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Today's episode brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. 5 Hour Energy. Use promo code Locked On CFB to receive 20% off your order. Go to 5hourenergy.com. He is Daniel. I'm Clint. Together, we are Locked On Bulldogs. Thanks for making us your first listen of the day, as well as thanks for the every single dayers who are here with us and the loyal third segment listeners that listen to the end. We know all of y'all did that over the weekend when we overreacted. We appropriately reacted. And
I think we need to change the name of the episode. I don't think I've overreacted once on this podcast. So
if by overreact you mean not been very sincere about how my internal feelings express themselves, you're right. I've never overreacted one time.
I think I've exhibited a tremendous amount of restraint, if I'm being totally honest.
Knowing who you are, Daniel,
yeah,
I completely second that.
Yeah, see? So we may change the name of the episode, but thanks. I mean, the Overreaction Show, huge show. Really appreciate all of you who are here. Yeah, Alabama fan, you're our favorite. We love you. You keep the lights on. We're happy that you're here.
Please
tell us how much you hate and how dumb we are.
I'm an idiot.
We're idiots, and we embrace that.
Yeah.
We're here to talk about, in the cold light of day, some facts are beginning to emerge.
It's coming back to life, Daniel. We've woken up. The dawn has risen. The dusk is set. And in light, all of a sudden we go, some things have changed for us.
Some things that haven't changed.
Go ahead.
A kid named Sumo Karnbarnye.
That's better than I was going to do.
Ran all over us on Saturday.
Straight down our throats.
Right up the brownstone he went. We had 64 yards of offense in the first half. We had 3 first downs in the first half. We had 262 yards of total offense in the game. Yeah. We won the game 13-12. We won the game, Clint. Let me repeat that last part.
We did.
13-12, and now we've won 28 straight SEC conference games. That's never been done before in the history of the conference, which is curious given the fact that college football's single greatest dynasty in the history of dynasties also took place in this conference. So it is interesting that we have won 28 straight conference games, something that's literally never been done.
Literally.
In the history of the conference. We've also won 42 straight regular season games, and we're 48-2 in our
national
last
championships.
50. Okay, so it's a lot.
It's a lot. But
we had a bad game against Kentucky.
Horrible game. My gosh.
Here's the thing that I want to bring up is that this isn't actually... I was going to say it's not unprecedented, Clint, but that's not even fair to say. This isn't unusual for the Georgia Bulldogs football team.
One might say, Daniel, it's an annual tradition.
It's a tradition unlike any other. It's one where I throw up into a bucket and break things in my home. It's a time when Georgia goes on the road in the SEC. There's one notable exception to both of these. We'll get to in a second. And absolutely lays an egg against a team that by the time we get to the end of the season, you realize, okay, Georgia should have beaten that team really good. I mean, at the time, you're not sure because each of these examples that I'm going to give you at the time, be honest with yourself, Georgia fans, at the time you were saying, I don't know what's going on here. I think the wheels might be falling off. Like this team is legitimately bad. This team might have some, but then you get to the end of the season, and you look back at that game and you go, okay, some things in life are difficult to explain. And this game is one of them, because it doesn't make any sense in the world how this talented Georgia football team really struggled with this.
It doesn't make
less talented football team, other than to say college football in the SEC on the road is very, very difficult. I know South Carolina blew Kentucky out at the same stadium that we played in on Saturday night.
Sure.
But college football on the road is very, very difficult. Let me not even start with Georgia recent history. Alabama fan, let me offer you an olive branch. As a Georgia fan last year, tell me going into that SEC championship game, Georgia fans, you did not beat your chest and talk about how the vaunted Alabama Crimson Tide football team a Hail Mary prayer beat a really bad Hugh Freeze coached Auburn team the week before. You guys remember the play, right? They built a statue in Tuscaloosa. I'm pretty sure about it. Like Jalen Miller ran around back there for his life. It was, 4th and 59 or something.
Something like that.
Heaved it to the end zone, and Isaiah Bond, the vaunted Texas wide receiver, caught it there in the end zone.
Somehow.
And they won the game on a miracle finish. Well, that Auburn team sucked.
They were so atrocious.
And Georgia fans, you went into that SEC championship game going, this Alabama team can't even handle their business against Auburn.
And then what had happened when we got high on our horse and we thought Auburn was trash, and if you're competing at those levels with trash, then you're trash.
Jalen Milroe clearly ain't it. He couldn't get it done against all. And then what happened, Georgia fans, is you went in to Atlanta, SEC championship game, and you got whipped. In the biggest game of the year, you got beaten. It's only a 3-point game at the end of the game, but you got physically beaten by Alabama in that setting. So you know that what we're about to say in the second and third segments on this podcast is true. You know it instinctively because you've seen it play out both for your team and you've seen it play out against your team. So we're going to talk about 3 games in the last 3 years that Georgia has really struggled in that remind us a lot of this Kentucky game.
Eerily similar.
And we're going to talk about the results of those games and what Georgia went on to do and what it means for this year's Georgia team. But first, we want to let you know about these.
These are, in fact, 5-hour energy. Daniel and I love 5-hour energy. We need a lot of energetic shots in our lives. Yes, we do. We use them when we are either with family or we're trying to do all the errands or all the house projects we got going on.
Maybe you got a long drive tomorrow. Maybe you got to take a long drive to a place.
Scenic highway that everyone is going to. Lots of traffic trying to get out here because it is a mecca of transportation hub.
You're going to be a little drowsy on that drive. You go right to 5-hour energy.
Why don't you grab a 5-hour energy right before you're watching sports? Stay alert with all your favorite games. If you stay up late to see the intense overtime game, take a 5-hour energy shot in the morning so you can start your day. Get in the zone. 5-hour energy shots give you the feeling of alertness and energy you need to get into the zone. You can have 5-hour energy that has no sugar, convenient portable sizes, perfect pick-me-up for getting stuff done. 5-hour energy website has flavors galore like watermelon, tropical burst, grape berry, and more. There's a flavor for everyone. Try them all. On the site, you even have the option to build your own 12-pack or 24-pack. You choose the flavors, and it's delivered right to your door. If you go to 5hourenergy.com, that's the number 5hourenergy.com, and get some 5-hour energy product today, you can use my promo code LOCKEDONCFB to receive 20% off your order. This offer is only valid until September 30th. On one order, cannot be used with other promotions. This code is not good on any subscription orders. Go to 5hourenergy.com today. Daniel, you had teased the people talking about the schedule before and what had been done. This is an annual tradition. We're going to see a Kentucky team pop back up here in a little bit with some of the kind of fads or maybe some rhythms or whatever you want to call them that Georgia has been stuck into these ruts every single year. Let's start with this year. It's the Kentucky game so far. We don't know what else is going to come. But last year, Daniel, there was a game that that caused us a lot of consternation, a lot of bucket-worthy time. What was that game?
Yeah, it's the Auburn game last year. I mean, you guys remember, right? You go down to Jordan Hare, and you talk about a Peyton Thorne-led Auburn team.
It's so bad.
Peyton Thorne threw for 82 yards in this game.
But
just stop me if this sounds familiar.
Okay.
Could not throw the ball in this game.
No.
Peyton Thorne rushed 12 times for 92 yards in this game. Okay. All right. It was a struggle bus from start to finish. Auburn was up 10-0 in this game. It was tied 10-10 at halftime. Auburn scored first in the third quarter. It was 20-20 with 6.5 minutes to go in this game. And you guys remember Brock Bowers' 40-yard touchdown pass from Carson Beck to take the lead. But even then, Georgia needed, I believe, an interception in the end zone. Am I wrong, Clint?
You're not
steal
wrong.
that game.
Seal it.
Auburn went right back down the field and was about to tie it, potentially go for 2 and beat you right there on the field. That was not a game. I mean, it wasn't a 1-point game if you look at the box score. No. But they were on the goal line. We intercepted the ball in the end zone to end the game. So it's a 7-point win, but that's basically a 1-point game, essentially, is what you're talking about there, because it's a one-play game.
Yeah.
And you have the possibility of losing that football game. We already mentioned it because of when we talked about Alabama's performance against Auburn last year. Auburn, a bad football team last year. Yeah. Like not a okay football team, but a downright bad football team. Like this is an Auburn team that lost to Texas A&M. They lost to LSU. They lost to Ole Miss. They lost to New Mexico flipping state last year. Clint, this is a bad Auburn football team. They had Peyton Thorne at the helm. They still have Peyton Thorne at the helm. One has to wonder, what is Hugh Freeze doing with Peyton Thorne at the helm? But we'll get to Auburn when we play Auburn.
If you look at this game and you look at what that was, all you have to say is Peyton Thorne, and he wasn't that great, and he can't throw downfield. Stop me if you've heard this. The offensive line ran through our defensive line. We had to come up with timely plays that went against what they did. It's a Kentucky game all over again, on the road in the SEC against a hapless quarterback and a play caller. Hugh freezes many things. There are many more qualified play callers in the SEC now than Hugh Freeze. I think he's fine. He's good, but not the same level as Sark right now, or Kiffin, or whoever else you want to throw in there. We one possession game. Daniel.
One possession game. And guys, in case I need to remind you, last year Georgia went 12-0 in the regular season, finished the year 13-1.
Yep.
Looked just fine. In the rest of their content. Like no hangover. In fact, the week after this game,
tell people what they did.
We come back to Athens against the Kentucky Wildcats, and we put it on them. You and I were at this game.
We were.
It was not pretty unless you like pretty things. And in that case, it was beautiful.
It was all the things.
So, not necessarily an indication of who this Georgia football team was last year is the big picture point that I'm trying to make. Right? Does that seem fair? Is that fair, Clint?
That is a very fair statement, Daniel.
All right. Let's rewind another year. The year is 2022, and it is Saturday, October 1st of 2022. Some of us have just enjoyed a very nice dinner.
Very nice dinner.
A very nice dinner. And we have recorded this game and are coming back to watch it. Georgia at Missouri. You want to talk about, of the 3 games that we're going to talk about, this one's the grossest by far.
It's not even close.
This game was heinously bad. At halftime, it was 16-6 Missouri. At going into the fourth quarter, it was 19-12 Missouri after 3 quarters. You're talking about a Missouri football team that to that point in the season was 2-3. Like, not a good Missouri football team. And yet they came in and Georgia out-rushed them. They outpassed them. They outgained them. They had more yards per play than them. But Georgia had 2 fumbles in the game. And stop me if you've heard this, a bunch of penalties in the game.
Timely penalties.
I mean, Georgia should have lost this game.
It was a Malachi Starks shoelace.
He ran him down.
Saved this game, and I think the season for us this season. That was the only thing stopping us from utter disaster in this game. That was it. He was streaking with a clear, that running back all the way to the end zone. Malachi Starks put on his high horse and got going in a hurry.
It is unequivocally the best play Malachi Starks has made in a Georgia uniform. Correct. And no one will talk about it when he gets drafted in the first round of the NFL draft. No one will talk about it. No. But don't forget, Georgia fans, that he did that in that game because, again, we talk about these games. We remember these games. 2022, Clint. 2022. Okay. Did Georgia do anything significant in 2022? Yep. Hey, they did. They went 15-0. Alabama fans, you still here? How many 15-0 teams y'all have
there? No.
Y'all got any 15-0 in there? Anything? Zero. Any pulling out Zero. Any 15-0s in the back? No, none of those. Georgia went 15-0. They won the national championship by 971 points against TCU.
Oh my gosh!
It was not a pretty game unless you love pretty games, and then it was a beautiful game.
From the onset, that team was one of the best that we've ever seen. Offensive juggernaut,
best offense Georgia's ever had. 2022, the best Georgia offense in the history of Georgia football.
We were getting slammed around by Missouri.
Again, at halftime of the Missouri game, Georgia had 6 points. At the end of 3 quarters of the Missouri game, Georgia had 12 points. Best offense in the history of Georgia football. Georgia went on to win the national championship undefeated. We got one more game we're going to talk about. And these are the 2 that everybody's talking about. Missouri last year and Auburn. But there's another one, I think. And I think this one is actually the best comp.
The closest.
To this game that we have. We're going to go back another year and talk about it right after these.
But first, there is FanDuel. FanDuel.com. We love FanDuel. You've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Well, we have something a little different for you. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with the YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime. Just visit FanDuel.com. Download America's #1 sportsbook, FanDuel.com. It's fantastic. Daniel and I love them. You get over there right now. All the bets that we do every single week, we go on FanDuel, which we had a good week this week. FanDuel.com to get the action. FanDuel.com, America's #1 sportsbook. Daniel, I'm gonna let you tee this up for the $1.99 for the everydayers, the people who are loyal third segment listeners. I'm gonna go because I'm about to. I don't know if you guys can tell. There is some drainage needed in the facial region. Dan's gonna let you know how this game is the most akin to this, and I'll be right back.
He needs a water, guys. He needs a water. Speaking of. Let's talk about Georgia Clemson 2021. It's a long time ago, guys, but the first game of the year, it's in Charlotte. It's in 2021. DJU's first game as a starter in college. And boy, it was an interesting affair for the Georgia Bulldogs. Let's talk about obviously it's a 10-3 game. You remember that. Georgia's defense the best defense in the history of college football. The 2021 Georgia defense came out, and they were playing like gangbusters in this game. But the Georgia offense was a bit of a different story. JT Daniels, if you will recall, started this game because he was the starting quarterback for Georgia at the time. He was 22 of 30, which sounds pretty good. 22 completions, high percentage, 135 yards. We are talking about everything was short in the passing game. Georgia couldn't get anything going downfield. Stop me when you've heard this before. Georgia ran the ball for 121 yards, giving them a total of 256 total yards. Now, they outgained Clemson in that game, 4.2 yards per play. Here's the interesting thing, is that Georgia had 262 total yards this weekend in Kroger Field against Kentucky. More yards per play, a higher total output in terms of yardage offensively, and certainly a higher total output in terms of scoring offensively. On Saturday against Kentucky, Georgia had 2 field goals and a touchdown. But on September the 4th, 2021, Georgia's offense had exactly 1 field goal in the game in the third quarter, and that was it. The touchdown in the game was a pick 6, which of course you will remember, and Georgia's defense held on and took care of everything from there. Georgia did not look good in that game, particularly on offense. Georgia did not look good. They did not have any rhythm. They were not able to get anything going. And again, it's a situation where you get to the end of the season. Obviously, Georgia has a really good year in 2021, pretty good year. They end up losing to Alabama in the SEC championship game, a game that Alabama fans love to talk about, is the time when Georgia lost. One of the 2 losses in our last 50 games.
Mm-hmm.
And then they ended up winning the national championship, and they beat some nobody school to do it because, so some sort of a Mickey Mouse championship where they didn't really have to compete against anybody because, they played Alabama, and Alabama sucked that year. And so Georgia wins the national championship. But in doing so, they play a game against Clemson, again, where they can't move the ball on offense. They have less total yards than we had against Kentucky. They have less total points than we had against Kentucky. And we should have been walking out of that game thinking Georgia's offense might be one of the worst offenses in college football this year. The defense looks really good. The offense might be one of the worst offenses we've seen in quite some time. Georgia obviously figures it out, wins the national championship. We're talking, Clint, about 3 games in 3 years.
All eerily similar up and down the profile of the game.
3 years where Georgia lost 2 total games and won 2 total national championships. And they looked bad. Like, listen.
Not struggling, not like, okay, hey, we eked it out. Okay, I understand. We thought it was back and forth. It was well competed. No, no, this is bad. This is just empirically evidenced by everybody, not good football.
So here's what I'm here to tell you.
Okay.
Did Georgia look bad on Saturday?
Atrociously so.
Yes, they did. If you're a Georgia fan, please stop getting mad at people who say Georgia looked bad on Saturday. Because guess what?
We did.
Georgia looked bad on Saturday. If a Tennessee fan tells you Georgia looked bad on Saturday, do you know what? That Tennessee fan is right. If an Alabama fan tells you Georgia looked bad on Saturday, do you know what? They are correct. We looked bad. Now, does Georgia looking bad mean something for Georgia's prospects of long-term success moving forward? I mean, every year's different.
Maybe.
But so far, in 3 years of sample size, Clint, 100% of the time, it does not. It does not have any indication. It does not have any bearing on whether or not Georgia will be a championship level caliber team. We came into this season thinking Georgia was going to be a championship caliber team, thinking Georgia has a championship caliber roster.
Yep.
None of that looks any different from where I sit right now. Georgia played really bad in a game, but I don't think that does anything to limit the prospects of whether or not we are a championship caliber team. I think all of that story is yet to be written, and none of it is going to have anything to do with what happened on Saturday night at Kroger Field.
No.
So
I think the thing that is so incredible and encouraging to me about this is the main man, Kirby Smart, is going to get people right. We have the bye week. You can talk about look-ahead game. I do not think Georgia was looking ahead to Alabama. There is nothing in my mind.
Don't be so
because
dumb.
if you listen to Kirby, he said, I've been telling the guys, and I was trying to tell y'all that this game was going to be this way. Kirby tried to tell us.
Kirby legitimately thinks the national media thinks we're going to go 5-7. And he legitimately thinks Mark Stoops is the best coach in the SEC. Now, you can say what you want about whether or not Kirby Smart is delusional. In those two regards, he definitely is. He gets results on the field. He motivates his players. Oh, by the way, Georgia being number 2 in the AP poll for the next 2 weeks.
Associated Press.
Every day at practice.
Thank you.
Every day for 2 weeks at practice. They're disrespecting you. They don't think you got it. They think it's easy to go on the road in the SEC.
Played? Has Texas? Oh, Michigan? Sure. Okay, let's look at that offense. That's all they played, guys.
We were gonna come back tomorrow. We've got some more specific nuggets.
This give implications for predictions we made.
That's right. There's further work to be done on this front. So join us tomorrow. We'll be here the entire bye week. We will be here getting ready for the Alabama game in 2 weeks. We've got a lot to discuss, a lot to talk about. Tell a friend about the show, subscribe to the show, and we will see you guys next time.
See ya.